Hey guys, welcome back for our language lesson for today. Our language arts lesson, and today we're going to be talking more about character traits. We've read a lot of books and we've talked about their characters a lot. We're just going to do a little bit more now so you can really start looking for character traits on your own. Today we're going to use the book Frog and Toad. I have there's a whole series of these books, and I have several of them in our classroom that we haven't gotten to yet because we're not even there. But today I'm going to read some of Frog and Toad out loud to you, and we're going to focus on thinking about finding out how the characters in our books are feeling, because everybody and everything has feelings. Characters have lots of feelings, just like we do, and sometimes things happen that cause characters' feelings to change throughout a story, just like your feelings change throughout a day. Readers always think about how the characters are feeling because it helps them to understand the characters and the whole book better. So I want you to listen and watch while I read, and you're going to see me stop every now and then and think about the characters in the chapters and their feelings. I'm going to jot down how they feel and why they feel that way on my little response sheet that I have here. Okay, see, so-and-so feels. The reason this line is here is for us to write the name of the character. Then I'll just like if this were a little sticky note, I'll write down how that character feels, okay? So when we see this big symbol right here, this means that we're looking for how a character feels. And in this particular book, it's going to be either frog or toad. Okay, and we'll discuss, after I do a little bit of reading, we'll discuss how they're feeling. Okay? Okay. And I'll show you how to jot down a few notes on the little response sheet, and I'm going to show you just how to use these little notes and eventually how to use a sticky note, even without the symbol, or you could draw the symbol on a sticky note. Okay, let's go ahead and open up our book, Frog and Toad Are Friends by Arnold Lobel. Okay, let's go to the back and let me read this little chapter back here. Okay, this is called The Letter. Is this clear and out of the way of my picture? Well, yes, it is. Okay, it's called The Letter. Toad was sitting on his front porch. Frog came along and said, "What is the matter, Toad? You're looking sad." So right there, I'm seeing a feeling word. We'll come back to that in just a minute. "Yes," said Toad, "this is my sad time of day. It is the time when I wait for the mail to come. It always makes me very unhappy." "Why is that?" asked Frog. "Because I never get any mail," said Toad. Now remember, as I'm reading this, you're thinking about feeling words, okay? "Not ever?" asked Frog. "No, never," said Toad. "No one has ever sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That is why waiting for the mail is a sad time for me." Frog and Toad sat on the porch, feeling sad together. Then Frog said, "I have to go home now, Toad. There is something that I must do." Frog hurried home. He found a pencil and a piece of paper. He wrote on the paper. He put the paper in an envelope. On the envelope, he wrote, "A letter for Toad." Frog ran out of his house. He saw a snail that he knew. "Snail," said Frog, "please take this letter to Toad's house and put it in his mailbox." "Sure," said the snail, "right away." Which is kind of funny because snails don't move very fast. I don't think he'd be able to get it there right away. Then Frog ran back to Toad's house. Toad was in bed taking a nap. Toad, said Frog, I think you should get up and wait for the mail some more. No, said Toad. I'm tired of waiting for the mail. Frog looked out of the window at Toad's mailbox. The snail was not there yet. Toad, said Frog, you never know when someone may send you a letter. No, no, said Toad. I do not think anyone will ever send me a letter. Now why did he think that? Frog looked out of the window. The snail was not there yet. But Toad, said Frog, someone may send you a letter today. Don't be silly, said Toad. No one has ever sent me a letter before, and no one will send me a letter today. Frog looked out of the window. The snail was still not there. Frog, why do you keep looking out of the window? Asked Toad. Because now I am waiting for the mail, said Frog. But there will not be any, said Toad. Why did he say that? Because there never had been any. Oh, yes, there will, said Frog, because I have sent you a letter. You have? Said Toad. What did you write in the letter? Frog said. I wrote, Dear Toad, I am glad that you are my best friend, your best friend, Frog. Oh, said Toad, that makes a very good letter. Then Frog and Toad went out onto the front porch to wait for the mail. They sat there feeling happy together. The book tells us right there how they felt. Frog and Toad waited a long time. 4 days later, the snail got to Toad's house and gave him the letter from Frog. Toad was very pleased to have it. The end. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of this story. And as we read, let's look for some of the feelings and just jot them down. Okay, I'm going to put my little piece of paper over here. I think I better use a black marker so you can see. Okay, let's jot down some of Toad's feelings. So I'm going to write Toad here. Okay, this says Toad feels. Let's read along and look for the words. Toad was sitting on his front porch. That doesn't tell us yet how he's feeling. Frog came along and said, What is the matter, Toad? Now we're going to find out what Toad's feelings are. You are looking sad. Let's find out if that's how Toad is really feeling. Yes, said Toad. Yes. So he's saying, yes, this is how I'm feeling. So I'm going to jot down here that he feels sad. See, I'm just jotting. It's just a word, one word, okay? This is my sad time of day. It is the time when I wait for the mail to come. It always makes me very unhappy. There's another feeling where he feels unhappy. So let's jot down unhappy. Okay. Why is that? Asked Frog. Because I never get any mail, said Toad. Okay, let's talk about how this makes him feel. Not ever? Asked Frog. No, never. No one has ever sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That is why waiting for the mail is a sad time for me. Frog and Toad sat on the porch feeling sad together. Well, we've already written sad. So he's sitting there. He's sad because why? He never gets any mail, and he doesn't think he's ever going to get any mail. So we could say that he feels hopeless. There's no hope. He feels like there's no hope in ever getting a letter. So let's add hopeless to our list. Hopeless. Now remember, the way a character feels can change throughout a story. And we know, since we've already read the story, that Toad's feelings do change at the end of this story. Okay, let's move on. Then Frog said, I have to go home now, Toad. There's something I must do. And Frog hurried home, and he found a pencil and a piece of paper, and he wrote on the paper, and he put the paper in the envelope. On the envelope, he wrote a letter for Toad. Frog ran out of his house. He saw a snail that he knew, and he asked Snail to take a letter to Toad's house and put it in his mailbox, and Snail agreed, okay? Then Frog ran back to Toad's house, and he got Toad up out of the bed. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I want to move on to more of how Toad feels, okay? He got him out of the bed, and Toad said, why? And he said, because you are going to get mail today. And he says, how do you know? And he says, because I sent you mail. So then what does Toad say? Don't be silly. Well, what is the opposite of silly? If we're not supposed to be silly, then we have to be serious. So he's either being serious or he's being real. Okay, so let's write serious. Because that's the opposite of silly, isn't it? Don't be serious, instead be the opposite thing, which is serious, okay? No one has ever sent me a letter before, and no one is going to send me a letter today. So that he's still feeling hopeless. And let's move on. Okay, and on page 63, after Frog tells him, I wrote you a letter, and here's what it says. Then Toad says, oh, this is where his feelings start to change. That makes a very good letter. So now he's starting to feel how? He's starting to feel happy. Down here at the bottom it says, they sat there feeling happy together. So he hasn't seen the letter yet, but he's starting to feel hopeful that he really is going to get a letter. So we're going to write hopeful. Okay, and then we know that he starts to feel happy. Okay. And so that is how we know his character and his feelings. We're learning more about Toad. Is Toad a grumpy old toad? No, not that we know of. We just know that at the beginning of the story, he's sad and he's unhappy. He feels hopeless because he never gets any mail. He tells Frog that he should feel serious and not silly. He's hopeful then. That's where his feelings change. He's hopeful because he knows, he thinks he knows, he's been told he's going to get mail. And then finally, he and Frog together are happy because the snail brought the mail. Okay, so that's how we can jot down character feelings as you're reading a book. So as you're reading your books or you're listening to the books that I read to you, whether it's Last Stop on Market Street or Bloom or whatever I read to you, A Bad Case of Stripes, you can just get a sticky note or a little piece of paper and put a smile, because that helps you to know the feelings that your character has, and then make a list of how your character feels and see for yourself if the character changes throughout the story. Okay? Okay, so just for quick reference here, I've got my list of character traits that we made, feelings that Toad was having. Toad feels sad. He feels sad because he never gets any mail. Waiting for the mail makes him sad. He feels unhappy because he never gets any mail. He feels hopeless because he never gets any mail. These are just some of his feelings. So I always ask you guys to write me a few sentences about character traits or feelings of characters and stories. And so if I were going to write a few sentences about Toad, then I would write, in Frog and Toad are friends, Toad feels hopeless. That's the character trait I chose, hopeless. Because, and this is the important part, because you need to tell me what the story says, what the book, the passage, the text, what it says. He feels hopeless because he never gets any mail. He never has, he doesn't think he ever will. Now, I didn't go back and copy those words out of the book. I just remembered that that's what he said he was feeling and why he said he was feeling that way. So whenever you are writing 3 to 5 sentences for me about a character trait for someone, I want you to get a little piece of paper, jot down those character traits or the feelings of the character as you're reading the book or as I'm reading the book. And then this is how you're going to write. This was just for a reference, and I hope that it helps. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.